Manx Radio's Countryside is brought to you by NFU Mutual.
Well, good evening and welcome to Countryside here on Manx Radio. I'm Simon Clark.
And I'm Kirree. I went along to Knockaloe Farm in Patrick to see how the Royal Manx Agricultural Show preparations are coming along.
And the Isle of Man Creamery are celebrating 90 years this year. And I went along and spoke to one of the first milk producers, Raymond Teare, and also to the current chairman of the Isle of Man Creameries, Dougie Cooil. Well, plenty going on. Kirree, a bit of combining been happening as well.
Oh, the weather's been wonderful. I think it's been greatly received by all of the people in the countryside. There's haymaking, silage making, and like you say, some of the corn gathered in safely in the dry weather.
Yeah, sounds like the Harvest Festival songs there. All is safely gathered in.
It does, doesn't it? It won't be long before the harvest homes, will it? Oh, wow.
No. Plenty going on, though. And, of course, the Creamery, the Isle of Man Creamery, celebrating 90 years of the Isle of Man farmers bringing their milk or being collected into the Isle of Man Creameries to be distributed into cream and the Manx cheeses. Well, I got a bit of a contrast. I speak to 90-year-old Raymond Teare from Clooney's farm in Braddon there. From him being one of the first milk producers putting milk into the creameries. But first of all, I spoke to the current chairman of Isle of Man Creameries, Dougie Cooil. So firstly, Dougie, a bit of a milestone for the creamery.
Yes, well, that's right. It was there was milk processed on the island in the 20s. But in 1934, the current farmers' cooperative, that is now the Isle of Man Creamery, was formed. It started as a milk marketing association, and that is still going today. And the creamery is actually a subsidiary of the Milk Marketing Association. So in 1934, the milk would be going into the creamery, which was in or a factory which was in Spring Gardens in the middle of Douglas. The milk was processed there, would be put into glass bottles and delivered around the town in horse and cart, and any surplus was made into cheese. And up until that time, any surplus would be dumped because there was no
secondary output for anything.
No cheese manufacturing, so there was nothing more for it to do, and it would go off very quickly in the summer because it wouldn't be cooled like it is now. So the formation of the creamery of the Milk Marketing Association meant that everybody had the same outlet for the surplus milk. So the milk would be delivered to the factory in kegs at the time. Most farmers would bring their own milk. If they lived around Douglas way, any surplus milk they would bring in kegs or churns. And that changed I think it was in the 50s when a wagon went round to all the farms. And you'll see now the keg stands at the end of farm lanes in certain places where 50 years ago there would be 20 or so, or however many cows the farmer had. The kegs, churns would be on these stands at the end of the lane, and the wagon would drive along and pick them up. And that all changed in the late 70s. In the 70s, the first refrigerated bulk tanks came along, and milk was cooled better and able to be kept longer. Prior to that, if a farm was near to Douglas, sometimes in the summer it would have to bring their milk into Douglas twice a day, because after the evening milking, they would bring milk in for the tourist trade, ready for the morning breakfasts. Yeah. Because they couldn't keep it over a full day because it would be going off because it wouldn't be cooled properly.
But you mentioned about the early days of it and the cheese part of it, and the name Gladys Davies comes up, Dougie.
Yeah, Gladys Davies was actually we'll all remember fondly Harvey Briggs, and Gladys was Harvey's mum, and she came over in the 1920s, left a young Harvey back in Lancashire, and came over to make cheese. She was the first sole cheesemaker on the island, and Harvey came over a year or two later and joined her, and had a successful career in agriculture and journalism on the island, and a great fella.
Yeah, but I think I remember seeing a picture of Harvey with the kegs.
Yes, that's right. There is a picture of Harvey. He was the last producer to be collected in 1984 on the keg wagon, and there is a picture about of Harvey's last day's milk collection, and that was in 1984. And so in 1993 the creamery was refurbished, a complete factory refurbish, and 1994 I think the name was changed from Isle of Man Dairies to the Isle of Man Creamery as we know it now. So it's had different names, but the actual cooperative has been the same for 90 years.
When you say the cooperative of it, and it's got a unique sort of system of being run, really, hasn't it?
Yes, well, the cooperative, the creamery is owned by the milk producers. So at the minute there are 27 milk producers producing milk and putting milk into the creamery each day. But when it was formed in the 90 years ago, I would guess there would be 300 or 400, and they've just, times have changed, agriculture's changed, and people with half a dozen cows might have been putting milk in at that time, but now it's a different ball game, and it's much more, probably the same number of cows producing a similar amount of milk, probably more milk, but it's just less farms, which is the same all over. In the early 2000s, our managing director at the minute, Finlay MacLeod, came on board, and our financial controller, Stephen Keeley, and they've been at the helm for very near 25 years now. Their brief was to reduce making as much commodity cheese and selling it on the commodity market, and to enhance the branded cheese sales. And they've done that very successfully, and the Manx cheese now can be bought all around the world, really. There's quite a lot going into Canada, America. There's even some going to Australia, would you believe, and Spain, and lots of different countries.
It's been a great success story, the cheese, hasn't it?
Yeah, and it's very good quality. We think it is, and we love it at home as well. And the other success story has been the milk packaging. If you think back in the early years of glass bottles, it would be all glass bottles up until probably the 70s. And glass bottles can be recycled, but it takes a lot of cleaning, a lot of energy to heat water, and chemicals to clean them. And so the creamery went to cardboard cartons in the 70s, and
I remember them at the primary schools.
Yeah, triangle ones, and then they went on to square ones, and just recently, in the past, within the last 10 years, they've gone on to a different carton again, and it's now plant-based, and the whole thing is manufactured without using any oils or plastics. And by doing that, we've actually saved 100 tons of plastic coming onto the island.
Wow.
Before that, there was 100 tons approximately of poly bottles and polythene carton-based carton-based milk packaging. So that's a big step forward for the creamery, and we just keep pushing on, going forward. Another thing that we are proud of is the grass-fed accreditation, and not many people might take this for granted, but every cow that produces milk that goes into the creamery goes out and grazes grass in the summer. And throughout the world now, lots of farms, the cows never go out to graze in the summer. In the UK, it's quite a big issue with TB, and it's easier to control TB if the cattle aren't grazing alongside badgers and deer, which can be affected. But on the island, we don't have any TB at the minute, and all our cows graze in the summer, and that's where you're able to get grass-fed accreditation, which means a lot and is a good thing as far as animal welfare goes, we feel.
Yeah, well, it sounds like the creamery after 90 years is in a good position, Dougie.
Yeah, it's we're looking to go forward, and our producers are key to, they are the ones that are producing the milk, and David and Rob Cooil have just won the
Silver Lapwing, haven't they?
Silver Lapwing Award, and that is basically recognises farmers who go the extra mile, that produce high quality food hand in hand with sound environment management. So the whole, it's part of the whole cooperative thing where we try to do as best we can.
Another 90 years ahead?
Oh, definitely.
Firstly, one of the first producers to the creamery and around the Isle of Man, and still producing milk today, Raymond.
Yes. I'll be going up to help my son tonight to milk.
Never got fed up of it then?
You're always fed up with it. but there's nothing else to do, really.
Yeah. But, I mean, in them days, how many cows were you there? There'd be no machines or anything like that when you first got involved in it, was there?
We started off with 20. That was all the cows would hold. And then we took part of the mill, and we added another 10 in the 50s. So then we were milking 30 down on the bottom yard.
But all by hand?
No, we had milk machines in 1945, buckets that you carried up between the cows.
And where did the milk go? Was it sold locally round there, or were you sort of one of the first that got involved in the creamery, but as it is now?
To start with, it was a milk round in Douglas. My brother had a milk round in Douglas, and he'd done that for some years. And then we changed over and started to put it into churns into the Isle of Man dairies at Spring Gardens. So that's where we went from.
And the churns, people see them as ornaments now, and some of them painted up, but all part and parcel of it then. And you need to be fairly strong people to be lifting the churns around.
I think there's 100 weight in them, actually. So, but one of the things I did notice that after milking down on the bottom yard, when we put the milking parlour in, there was no carrying milk churns around, and I put a stone on. When we went up to the milking parlour.
But, did you have to deliver them, or did they have a sort of collection service then for the churns?
Well, the churns was collected at the Cool Corner. We had to build a platform there for the tanker, for the bringing the kegs round, dropping the empties off and picking the full ones up. And that went on till they started to bring in the bulk tank, refrigerated bulk tanks. And then the wagons started to come back to the yard again.
But, we've had a fairly warm spell this last couple of weeks. There wouldn't be much. How did you keep the milk from going off in them days?
Well, usually the dairy was usually a cold area. It was all slabs and that, and it was kept. You'd keep it in there, and depending on whether it was thundery, if it was thundery, it wouldn't keep very long. But if there wasn't any thunder around it, you'd keep it 24 hours, roughly.
There was a lot of farmers producing milk, I suppose, on the island in that day and age. Was there any rivalry?
Not really. Only at the dairies, when we were picking the churns up there, was always a shortage of kegs, and everybody was grabbing the kegs, or you had to wait for the wagon to come in to get your keg to go back again. So.
But of course, producing the milk and then the war times, did that make it more difficult?
Only for food stuff. You couldn't get, it wasn't until after war that you could buy concentrates to feed the cows on to get the milk. So
But were the types of cows that you had in that day and age as well? Obviously, a lot of people, a lot of the dairy farmers are going with the Holstein for the amounts of milk, the per literage that they produce. I mean, were they heard of then, the Holstein?
No, we didn't. When the island went TB attested, they tested our herd, and they all failed the test, and they were all slaughtered.
Really? What year would that be? Roughly?
I don't know. In the end of the 50s, I think it could be, somewhere around that. And the only cows that passed was the heifers all passed. And so they were all shorthorns. And then my father went out and bought Friesians. We went Friesian after that.
That must have been a fairly difficult time, though, as farmers with not huge profits sort of surviving like they are today. To have that happen must have been fairly devastating.
Well, I can't remember. Were we compensated for them? I don't know.
Right.
I can't remember that. But I haven't any idea now when I come to think of it. But it could have possibly been, we could have been compensated for taking the herd.
But you built the herd back up again.
Yes, we built them up. We added on another 10 stalls, and we milked them 30 then. Milked 30 up till 76 when we put the milking parlour in.
Right. And 76, I think, was a big year for the Isle of Man. Obviously, they moved to Tramode then to the new premises.
Yes.
And did that change anything?
Not really. It only by that time the milk was all in tank refrigerated tanks, so it was all collected, refrigerated then. So there was no such thing as not being able to keep it.
But a lot of changes, I suppose, you've seen in the industry from starting out and seeing you going down and helping your son still.
Yes, it's when you've done it all your life, you can't really stop. That's the problem.
And the cows, if there's 80 of them there now, would you know them all individually without looking at the numbers?
No, not now. Once you get up around 60 or 70 or 80, the individual cow doesn't go into it. Only the ones that kick you.
They still kick?
Oh yeah, they still odd ones that don't like it.
But you mentioned about the change, the different types of cows that we had then, and I suppose originally was it just the cows out in the field grazing and baling square bales of hay and feeding them, or rolled oats and things?
No, originally there were rucks of hay made up in the field, and then they had to be brought to the stationary baler to bale them. There was no pickups or that in them days. And we had to grow about 6 acres of turnips for the cows. And they had to be docked and carted in the winter for the cows as well. That was the main diet, was turnips.
Right. They weren't fed rolled oats and things.
Yes, you fed rolled oats. There wasn't any barley around at that time, but it was oats and turnips and hay mostly. I think that's... And maybe if you could get cake, Corton Callie's started to bring in dairy cake, and I think we used to buy that and give it to the best milkers.
But of course now a lot of people, most dairy farmers involved in silage and things like that, and I believe you were one of the first here at Clooney's to go into the silage world.
Yes, I decided to go silage in the 60s. And I bought a precision shop, American, I think it was a 717. And after that I hired a contractor to drive it. And we made silage, we put a barn up and put the silage inside and stopped growing turnips.
Did that make a big difference to the yields?
Yes, if you could make good silage, there's quite a lot of milk in good silage. And if you could get the weather right, silage has to be made just when the head comes up after the flag leaf. And if you get at that point, after that, the value drops day after day from that then on. So you've got to get it just right.
And I believe you were still out cutting silage last week or so. Is that a rumour or is this true?
Yeah, I mowed the field there on Wednesday. And then I rolled it up on Thursday. And Kirree Cooil come in today and baled it. Brown bales, which is handy in the winter. You don't have to open your store early on. You can feed big bales in between to start with.
But from you starting out then and to the modern day, still at it, remarkable span of years to be involved in it, Raymond.
Well, when you've never been 90 before, you don't know what it's like or what to do. So you just keep going. So, but old fellas like me usually end up with a fall. That's what usually happens. Tip over somewhere, and that's usually the end of it. But I think some of it too was in the 1940s, early 30s and 40s. During the war, I went to school the whole of the wartime, and the biggest scourge was bringing your gas mask with you every day. You had to bring it into school and bring it home at night every day, and that was a right menace, actually.
But essential part of it, were you on a push bike then, scratching up to the school?
I started at school. The reason I went to Murray's Road was my father was friendly with the headmaster there. So all of us went to Murray's Road. But when they stopped the milk down, I had to go in on bicycle every morning. It was, if the wind was right, you could make it in 20 minutes. But if it was raining and a headwind, it would take another 5 minutes to get in.
5 minutes? That's not bad, though. There we are, 90-year-old Raymond Teare, still helping his son John milking the cows there and cutting the silage, Kirree. And before that, the current chairman of the Isle of Man Creameries, Dougie Cooil, telling us about the history of how it's come a long way. But some great stories from Raymond, saying how tough things were in them days, even though they had less cows, but tough 7 days a week milking, isn't it?
Oh, it is, absolutely. And even the refrigeration systems were maybe not as we know them today. And the hard work, all, the mechanism it's moved on, the tractors, the facilities, the equipment we use now is so very different and makes life so much easier. But what a great man there, still working away. It's all that they know, isn't it?
Yeah, and always ever enthusiastic about it as well. It's just great to hear them stories of how they were transporting the big kegs around in vans that were probably not meant to carry that much. The milk all moving around in the back of them. Some great stories there. You're listening to Countryside here on Manx Radio with Kirree Kermode and myself, Simon Clark. Well, we've had a very successful Southern District Agricultural Show, but this Saturday, Kirree, the Royal Manx.
It will be all go, and it certainly is, at Knockaloe in Patrick. I popped into the show field to try and catch a word with the President, Suzanne Corlett, and the Secretary, Carol Kenyick. Well, it's a rainy, miserable day, but there's plenty of work going on, Carol.
Absolutely. The rain's it's not long come in, but we had a fantastic push this week. Yesterday particularly, there were like little ants running around the show field, and knowing that this weather was coming in, we spent a lot of time here late last night getting some of the really big tents up, so we're really pleased with how far on we are now.
It looks well ahead of schedule, to be honest.
Possibly, yeah, but every year's different and every year's weather dependent, so we just make the best of it. It's all we can do.
And like you say, they're running about here like ants. But you've got to remember, these people have got busy lives themselves. It's a great committee and a team effort.
And that's what it is. It is a team effort. No one person is bigger than the other. We all pull together. The weather, as we say, hasn't been fantastic throughout the season, so this last good spell meant that everybody was jumping on their jobs at home before they then could commit to time here to help us.
Yeah, brilliant. Now the entries have closed for the livestock and the horses, etc. How have they been so far?
Entries are encouraging. Given the spring that we had, I left it as late as possible because nobody wanted to see a prize list popping through the door. No, entries are on a par with previous years, and it's very encouraging to see some new names in the catalogue this year.
And that's what makes it, isn't it? Getting the young farmers, young people encouraged and to get involved. And it's, as much as it is a competition, it's still a friendly competition.
I think so. I'd like to think so. No, it is, and anybody would help anybody out. But just seeing these younger people coming through and following on, after generations of families showing, and some perhaps from families who haven't shown before, it's so encouraging, and this is what we do it for.
Yeah, absolutely. And this year you've brought another raft of judges over from the UK.
We have, yes, all of our judges are from the UK for our livestock. And that, again, it just gives everybody the opportunities to have a fair competition. And the exhibitors like to have judges from the UK, so there's no favouritism, there's no I know him, he knows her. It just makes it an easier day.
Yeah. Well, also with us here, we've got Suzanne Corlett, who is the president of this year's show. How are you feeling, Suzanne?
I'm okay at the moment, fairly relaxed, I think, yes.
And how has it been? Have you been enjoying your time getting the preparations done for the show?
Yeah, we've been quite busy this week, putting tents up, cutting grass, lots of grass to cut, more grass, and just help doing everything really, yes.
And I know that you're always busy with the horse section and getting that field prepared. Now, with being over in this side of the show field, is it a bit more tricky to get it all organised?
Yes, it has been tricky, and also I haven't been on this side so much because I've always done the light horse side, so it's been a little bit of an eye-opener, yes, but we're getting there, yeah.
And that's it, like you say, that everyone pulls together and pulls in, don't they? And have you got your judge picked for this year?
Yes, I have, yeah.
Oh, any clues?
No clues.
Carol, do you have any idea?
No, not going to say. We'll just wait and see.
Wait and see.
Watch that corner.
I think you all might be surprised.
Oh, well, there we go. And entertainment, Carol, what have we got planned for this year?
Okay, our main entertainment is a dog and duck display called Come By. They will be with us on both the Friday and the Saturday. We've got K9X, Unity Dance School. There's a host of different acts going on throughout the day. The ever popular sheep shearing demonstration, which this year will be in the NFU setup. And that's very kindly sponsored by the British Wool. Oh yes, the young farmers have re-engineered their tug of war competitions. So there's a male and a female team from each of the 4 clubs, and they will be having the tugs, the pulls, on Saturday. And that's been sponsored by Andrew Clegg, who's putting a trophy up, and he'd love to see that become an annual event.
Yeah, well, this is great, isn't it? Because all of the young farmer days, I think we've all gone through tug of war teams up at Langigan there, so it will be really, really great to see it back. And Suzanne, there's a new class in the horse side of the show as well this year.
Yes, on the Friday at 3:00 we're running a hobby horse competition sponsored by Country Warehouse, and we're going to hold different heats for different ages from 7 and under up to adults.
Oh, cool.
And then the final will be on the Saturday in the main arena, where they'll all have their little chance to run off for the championship, yeah.
That would be really good, because I've seen some of it online and it looks quite competitive.
It's a very big event now, very big. And actually we can qualify to go to the BSPS championships in the UK.
Oh my word.
Yeah,
so everything to
everything's
run
play
for
for
then,
yeah.
yeah.
Yes, yeah.
So is the hobby horses here for people to use?
We
or?
will have, but if you've got your own, bring your own. But we have got quite a few, or brush handles, anything really, if they're short. Because we're hoping to run a Grand National on the Saturday and have a, I think some of the rugby teams are quite interested.
Oh, what a great way to get involved with it. And that's what the show's all about, isn't it? It's just getting everybody here to have a good time.
It is, and hopefully the kids will really enjoy that, yeah.
And tickets, finally, still online or on the gate? How do we go about it?
Tickets are online. At the moment, Friday is £8 online and £8 on the gate. Tickets for Saturday are £8 online until midnight on Wednesday, and then they go up to £10 and will be £10 on the gate on Saturday.
There we go. But it's not too late to get the entries in, though. Arts and crafts are still open until the day.
Yes, arts and crafts. We actually judged the arts and crafts a little bit earlier, so entries will be accepted between 2 and 8 on Wednesday and between 8 and 12 on Thursday, and then judged Thursday afternoon. And the cookery, farm and garden competition, entries are accepted between 6:30 and 8 on the Friday and up until 9:30 on Saturday.
Oh, there we go. We can still get involved.
And light horse classes are late entries on the day, on the Friday and the Saturday.
That is brilliant. And how has the season been for the horses? Because sometimes it can be too hard going out there and it's a bit dried out. But this year, the weather conditions?
Yeah, I think, well, looking forward, it's looking okay. We've just been over and had a look at the grass situation, so we think the going is quite nice in the show field for the horses. So, yeah. And the driving is having a revamp this year. They're going into the top field, and there's been an extra class put on for them, and Libby Priest has very kindly taken that on board to run that and side of it, and hopefully get a few more driving people here.
And that is something to watch, isn't it? It's unbelievable how talented they are.
And hopefully going forward, if we can encourage them to get them back into the main arena, but I think they just want to get a little bit of a run under their belt first. So yeah.
And is the final of the horses getting judged in the main ring just before the Grand Parade again this year?
Yeah, that's getting judged in there, and that's really good. I think it's nice for people to see, because we are a little bit out on a limb over there, but I think it's nice for people to see the champion and reserve from each section come forward and have that done in there. Yeah, it's lovely. Yeah,
I think it really is, because it's the crowds that want to see the final, and the amount of time and effort that's gone into preparing them horses and ponies for this event, for every event that they go to. There's some serious talent on the island.
Yes, it's very good. Yeah, we've got a lot of talent on the island. Yeah.
Well, good luck, and let's hope it dries up a bit.
Yes, there's a lot of rain coming tomorrow, but a bit on Thursday, but hopefully, fingers crossed, it might be all right by next weekend. Yeah,
sure it will.
I mean, that's what we hope for, is 2 dry days. But whatever happens, we just make the best of it and we
it'll
get
be
on
what
with it.
it'll be, won't it?
It will.
Yeah,
The show will go on.
Yeah.
There we go. That was the show president for this year, Suzanne Corlett, and show secretary, Carol Kenyuk.
Well, if they get weather like the Southern was blessed with, I'm sure it's going to be a fabulous event as well. It's just great that I think the shows are pretty good to work together now as well, aren't they?
They have a great working relationships, and it's always great to see them pulling together to showcase the very best of agriculture, in particular with the livestock and the exhibitors, all bringing out their very best for the public to see on the show days throughout the year, but also the Manx produce as well. We can't go not mentioning that, how great that is. The food courts are always so tasty, so get along and enjoy it.
Indeed. And Manx Radio will be there broadcasting live from the show field as well, and there'll be some bits and pieces from it on next week's Countryside programme as well. Don't forget, if you have missed any of the Countryside programmes or you want to hear some of the interviews in more detail, you can go to Manx Radio's website and download the podcast. Just type in Countryside in the search bar and you can listen to all the episodes again. And we'll be back next week with more from the Royal Manx Agricultural Show. So until then, from me, Simon Clark.
And me, Kirree Kermode.
We'll see you then. Ta-da.
Bye-bye.